Welcome to the second best of 5 of the evening. We're on Frozen Temple, spawning to the top left-hand corner in blue. It's our Terran playing for Euronics Gaming and Austria. It's Sylvanas. And to the bottom right, in orange, playing for Rival Gaming in the USA. It's Koshkii. Congratulating her opponent on just reaching Masters, because Sylvanas just recently hit Masters 3 with her main race Terran. But Sylvanas, humble as she is, just says it's due to the broken MMR. And I'll leave the rest of the discussion to chat. So, Koshkii scouting with the Gateway probe, going into only one assimilator, which tells us that she's probably going to expand quite quickly. In the meantime, Sylvanas just trying to wall off. Oh, Sylvanas already being depressive as ever. Just telling everyone that she's going to get demoted next season. That's the right spirit. Okay, Koshkii just gets in, sees the refinery. Nothing actually, she probably didn't expect even. But of course it's always good to know that your opponent is not going for some sort of shenanigans. Even seeing the first barracks up on that main ramp is always something that really makes you feel better once you see it, because then you know that there's not some sort of proxy shenanigan happening somewhere on the map. So always a good feeling to know that. So, second gas after the Nexus plus the cybernetics core incoming as well. Good old usual stuff by Koshkii. Just the bread and butter Protoss build against most Terran openings. So command center on the low ground. And the first mule just coming down. Always looks still pretty cool when this capsule is actually dropping and the mule then just starts working. I just remember the Wings of Liberty campaign where you could actually just send down units with the help of these capsules, so that was also a neat thing to do. So Reaper just gets the free kill on that worker, but the worker still got at least the important scout that the command center is already going up. So Reaper now going across the map, trying to get some vision of the inside of the main base. And there's actually a lot of possibilities to get inside the main base. There's a long, drawn-out ledge here where the Reaper can just easily move in and then just move around in order to get all the necessary information. Whoa! Koshkii really wants to kill that Reaper, actually gets it with the quickly fired up proton overcharge. Damn! That was a tough luck for that Reaper over here. Just getting smacked in the face by overcharge, baby. Wow, that was really a my god, ruthless there. Okay, but then again, just the typical Koshkii build, robotics facility, like I said in the game before, it's actually not really that optional for Protoss anymore, and the typical follow-up after robotics into Twilight Council. So, yeah, we'll see what Koshkii is actually up to, if it's going to be some sort of mass gateway push, or if she just wants to go into some sort of immortal style. She actually normally uses against Zergs, so let us be a little bit surprised here. I don't really want to spoil everything ahead of time. So in the meantime, we have the good old 1-1-1 build for Sylvanas here, trying to get out a Cyclone as early as possible, because Sylvanas is of course aware of the possibilities of some sort of warp prism play, with DTs warping inside her main base. Where's the Dark Shrine? Is it actually being proxied? No, it's at the natural base. Oh, nice. Interesting position here. Interesting planned building placement there. And yeah, but Sylvanas is... Actually, I don't really know. We will see how it's going to work out. It's actually not the best plan against Sylvanas, because Sylvanas actually is really terrified of these early drop-ins and these early drop plays. And is very paranoid about warp prism plays, so she actually just plays super safe against those. Of course, there's still the possibility to get through with it if you just micro correctly. I mean, because of all the techie units and all the tech paths she has to get early on, she doesn't really have that many units. So if you just get into a good position or just catch her off guard for a second here, the strong defense might actually not quite work out the way it was planned to be. But we'll see how it's going to work. The warp prism is up. the first Dark Templar gets warp in, the second Templar as well, will then be loaded into the Warp Prism, and now finally tries to move in. We have everything in place. The Warp Prism could actually get shot down immediately. There's at least the Widow Mine, just gets a big hit off. Unfortunately for Sylvanas, reacting a little bit too late. Otherwise, with the help of the lock-on, she might have even gotten the Warp Prism. But yeah, I mean, like I said before, Sylvanas really paranoid about these kinds of plays. All she now has to do is just, oh, unfortunately not a missile turret in place close to the supply depot here. So just barely out of vision range, but okay, so scans, drives the Dark Templar away, doesn't get it! Ooh, even again, very close for Koshkii, very unfortunate for Sylvanas, but Koshkii just retreats completely, just leaves the Dark Templars at strategical important positions, and lets them just scout a little bit. Well, actually retreats with one more, lets the other one at the third base, takes a third base of her own. So even not after doing that much damage at all, forcing this big respawn out of Sylvanas actually got her a little bit ahead of her supply-wise and worker-wise, while Sylvanas actually had the chance to build up her third base in peace, and will then be able to drop it down. Of course, this Dark Templar will just delay it for a little bit more before it finally gets planted down. But yeah, in the meantime, actually, economically spoken, Koshkii actually being a little bit behind. I mean, her third base, due to that techie Templar push, just came a little bit late, so it still has to be built. And, well, in the meantime, okay, we still have the Old Command morphing, and then has to fly down here. Then she has to realize that there's a Dark Templar there, has to just send down her units, scan, kill it off. So that's again a scan, well, kinda wasted. A scan that could have been a mule otherwise. So there's still damage being dealt as we speak, even though it's not actively but passively dealt. So yeah, it seems as if Koshkii just will be even economically wise, because now finally her Nexus just finishes as the command center is above the Templar hanging there. She will now be able to just transfer a few probes if she actually has a few over, and she does. So should just actually transfer some of these natural probes over to the third base, and then, like I said before, players will just be even. And the Templar actually, the Dark Templar actually even gets away. Woo! Again, very unfortunate here for Sylvanas. Things are just not quite working her way. She's always so well prepared. She's just reading her opponent like a book, or rather blind countering here, whatever it is. I mean, we know Koshkii's playstyle. We know that she likes to drop Templars into unsuspecting Terran bases. So yeah, it might, like I said, it's Sylvanas' usual standard build. So it might be that she's just tried to have a look at Koshkii's replays of Season 1, seeing what she was kind of doing. And remember that a lot of these players actually faced each other in Season 1, so you can always just have a look at your own replays and your own vaults to see what your opponent actually did to you back then to be better prepared. But like I said before, it might not necessarily be preparation according to your opponent. It might just be her typical usual build, because like I said, Sylvanas hates TTs in her main base, as almost all Terrans do, so she might have just gone choosing that build because it's just what she does. But it worked out kinda well. It actually helped her defend everything quite easily, but just it could have just worked a little bit better with a little bit more luck on her side. But that way, Koshkii just got this little something extra out of her units, because Sylvanas was just barely not able to catch them. So, fourth base going down for for Koshkii as well. Sylvanas might actually be able to scout this quite early on, and I really like what Koshkii is doing here, just planting down some pylons in order to get a feeling when the army is actually moving out, so that she will be able to just move in with her army quickly enough, and that's just what this pylon is doing now. Good liberation zones here, in addition with the Widow Mine, so actually Koshkii cannot really engage that at all. So Sylvanas should actually be able to just move in, retreat by a little bit, and then maybe move in a little bit later. Maybe we'll be able to take on the Nexus. I would just love her having another set of units inside the inside the natural base here, like a double pronged attack from with a With a medevac over here, that would just be so great at that moment, but of course she just had to put all of her resources into these Liberators and Bio units. So now finally Colossus even being out, Extended Thermal Lens not done yet, but the units just move in, kill off all of the Liberation Zones, and without Liberation Zones, the Bio alone just won't suffice against that heavy teched up army of Koshkii here, that actually doesn't have the upgrade advantage. Ooh, Phoenix is even out now, just following and chasing down the medivacs, killing off everything. But the supplies are still even, so I'd say that it was kind of an okay-ish move, but unfortunately she didn't really get the 4th base, which is really the critical part. And this just makes this only a trait that favors Protoss more in this kind of position, because Protoss has the 4th base up and can now afford losing units and trading them, while Sylvanas just trying to take the 4th base at the same time, and she needs to deal economical damage in order to get a better position in the late game, because just continuing with what she does, her army won't really gain any more strength or any more value. Of course she will get better upgrades, she might even get a few more Liberators out, but most of the units will just remain comparatively with the same strength, while her opponent is just getting higher and higher teched army units with a lot of AoE damage and the potential to just wipe out a Bio force in seconds the longer the game goes. So that's what you normally want to keep the Protoss from doing by mainly harassing and attacking the economy of the Protoss, keeping it low so that you will then eventually just overwhelm your opponent with Bio forces. But since Sylvanas really didn't manage to deal that damage, she only exchanged a few units here and there on both sides, actually not really getting the better trades, but only even trades. The problem right now is that she at one point eventually has to face the fully upgraded and tacked up army of Protoss hat on, and that's just a fight she won't be able to win in most scenarios. Unless, of course, she really gets some magnificent okay, even driving away that double medevac drop over here that was trying to deal some damage inside the natural base, but it's not going to happen. Yeah, Phoenix just flying in, so unfortunately Sylvanas has to unload her units right here in the middle of nowhere. Actually, nice move, he just trying to take down, well, it was not really a focus fight, it was just because the Phoenixes were the only units around, but actually getting down a few of these Phoenixes, which might actually help her out later on, especially against the Liberators. And now finally, it might be the final engagement already. Sylvanas already trying to take position here. Koshkii sees that the Liberators are already trying to get a good position here. Don't really know if I like this Liberator positioning here. The army is very far tucked back, so it might actually be even easy for Koshkii to just take down one or maybe even the second Liberator before the rest of the army gets in. But of course there's also Widow Mines around here. So let's see. Seems as if Koshkii really wants to get in, but like I said before, see, the first Liberator almost goes down before actually anything happens, and maybe the second even as well. Just Koshkii blinking forward with a few more Stalkers trying to get it down. Now the rest of the army actually engages. A lot of Zealots just run in, but it seems as if with the help of the stutter stepping, Sylvanas might just be able to hang on a little bit longer. Especially the mines just hit so many units straight away. Now trying to move in, the Colossus just lasering down the units from behind. Sylvanas not really kiting as well as she could, but of course the Zealots just running and charging in, making it a lot more difficult for her. Will probably even lose the PF, the planetary fortress over here, because she didn't really counter-repair it with all of the units, and it seems that this is it. Koshkii broke through, and Sylvanas loses the first game. Very sorry for that. And Koshkii leads 1-0. Welcome to Galactic Process, the second map of this best of 5. Spawning to the top right-hand corner in blue, playing Terran. It's Sylvanas. And to the top left-hand corner in orange, leading 1-0, playing Protoss. It's Koshkii. So, nothing all too special going on. We don't see any proxy builds. Like I said, I really loved when Sylvanas tried to cheese her opponent. I think it was Mitsukotsu, right, last time around, where she just tried to do some sort of Reaper all-in on Apotheosis, I think. But this far, Sylvanas, it didn't even work out for her, unfortunately, but I really liked that she tried to mix it up a little bit, to be a little bit more unpredictable here. Of course, I mean, we have to say that Sylvanas really had very bad luck this season with her drawings. She had to face like all the favorized players in the first 3 weeks. Had to play Mitsukotse, had to play Miyako, the winner, the champion of the first FSL season. And even planting down the little tag here on the main ramp. Always a nice little hello there that Koshkii gives to her opponents. And now has to face Koshkii. So all of those being top favorites for the champion title this season. So yeah, a little bit unfortunate for Sylvanas here, getting like all the toughest opponents in the first 3 weeks. And she actually will have to play Midas Touch next week as well. So yeah, I mean, Sylvanas actually has all the favorite players behind her after these four weeks. But yeah, this is of course pretty tough drawing luck here, we also have to say. So then of course you want to mostly just rely on your practiced builds, on what you can play best. And just cross fingers and hope that today is the day where you can just pull out your A game and overwhelm your opponent. So, nothing all too special here from Koshkii once more. It's just the usual good old standard Protoss stuff. Doing the gateway expand into robotics facility. This time around not getting the Reaper, wasting actually a photon overcharge here. So the Reaper lives to come back another day, or just, okay, go away completely, which seems a bit excessive here. I don't know. I think it would have totally sufficed to just keep it back, tucked back here, and then just move in later on in order to get some more scouting information that you actually really want. How much did Sylvanas actually see? Okay, she saw the robo, so maybe that was just enough to tell her what was going on, and that after the robo, the Twilight is pretty typical. After the robo, the Twilight is a pretty typical follow-up, so probably Sylvanas just knew enough by seeing the robo there, and now just knows what's going to happen. Built an engineering bay immediately, and yes, it's the good old build from Frozen Temple. Actually, both players just playing the same game almost, except for Koshkii this time around getting the Resonating Glaives. Obviously preparing for a big Adept push, maybe even with a Warp Prism follow-up, as we can see. Or a Warp Prism with the help of a Warp Prism, so trying to get a mass warp in of Adepts maybe inside the main base, or maybe even attacking from multiple prongs, from multiple angles. So we'll see if this is going to work out or not, because once more, Sylvanas just being as paranoid as always, rightly so, in 2 cases, and already got the Cyclone out and a few units in position in order to intercept any Warp Prism play. Unfortunately for her, the Warp Prism is not coming from an angle that she expects it to come from. So Koshkii, just using the map to her advantage, is probably going to warp in back here at the rocks and then just move in from the right-hand side. A side that actually often gets underestimated by players, or just forgotten. So they don't really think about the possibility that units could actually just warp in here in secrecy and then just move in from that side. And that might actually be game ending. If we just have a look, there's not that many units around. Sylvanas just prepared totally for a Warp Prism that's not coming from that angle. And once the Warp Gates finally finish, we have a bigger warp in here. Actually quite interesting that Koshkii even loads them in. Maybe wants to... No, she doesn't. Okay, that's quite interesting here. I would have thought that she might want to go for some sort of multi-pronged harassment, just unloading a few units here and then just move into the main base. Okay, we'll probably even unload... Ooh, this is really a risky move here, just barely unloading it and getting the Warp Prism out of range of that missile turret over here. So now, unfortunately, we have the problem there for Sylvanas, that she just didn't have her units right in position. 4 workers have already died. It's not really that much, but she also loses the The refinery over here is probably even going to lose the refinery over here as well. At the same time, we have the shades that just shaded up into the main base, killing a few more workers, but not up here, but down there. She just moved a lot of these workers over to the natural base, where also some adepts had still been in position, taking down a lot more workers, and also maybe even letting burn down. No, there's the SCV already repairing that missile turret over here, but yeah, did quite some damage. Also lost a lot of units here. If we just have a look at the units lost tab, we actually have more resources lost for Protoss, but of course by killing enough workers that evens out quite significantly. Koshkii now on the 7 worker lead here, while she's already taken a 3rd base behind it, and Sylvanas has just finished her 3rd, is now moving it into an orbital command, has then just to fly it down here before she can finally start mining, and that will actually hurt her quite a lot. So not only losing these workers, also being late with her own expand because she had to focus on defending on multiple fronts. That was of course just a tough thing to do, and threw her back a little bit here. Although it doesn't show that much in supplies right now, but it will probably in just a few seconds. So, interestingly enough, we have another robotics bay build, so Koshkii really wants to go for the more reliable AoE in the form of Colossus tech. Actually, since we don't really see that many Colossi anymore that early in the game, it seems as if some Terrans actually underestimate the impact that Colossi can actually have if you don't have enough Vikings around. And Vikings usually not being built anymore that early in the game, because most Terrans actually prefer Liberators. Unless you're Bjorn, of course, and you actually know exactly what your Protoss opponent is doing, and then you just go into a lot of Vikings in order to take them down, preferring Vikings over Liberators anyways in the TVZ matchup. But yeah, I mean, this is a very difficult position here for Sylvanas. Koshkii has already saturated her base, will easily take these 5th and 6th gases, while she is just at it, and she's just trying to get the base saturated. Like I said before, she's behind in workers by far. And if we just have a look at the income tab, it kind of shows already, since there's no mules being called down at the moment as well. So yeah, just Sylvanas being behind 20 supply, and the gap just gets bigger and bigger over time. And again, we just have the same problem we had on Frozen, where we already talked about how a Terran is supposed to deal damage if she wants to go into heavy bio play. You usually just can't wait too long to attack a Protoss. Just try to build up your big bio ball and then just try to stim through all of the Protoss forces. That just doesn't work anymore the way it might have in Heart of the Swarm. So you just have to deal damage, or you have to deal a critical, or you have to just hit a critical timing in order to kill the Protoss army straight up. So Sylvanas trying to do her double drop once more. Might actually be able to get inside the main base. It really depends. I mean, she has to fly across this map. Hopefully she doesn't just automatically unload close to the 3rd base, because the army is just right here. Oh, a little bit unfortunate anti-timing here for Koshkii, just moving out a little bit while the drop just gets in. But of course it's not too far away, so Koshkii should be kind of fine. Sylvanas actually already loading in. Don't really... Ooh, getting both Medivacs feedback. Such a tough loss here. Very unfortunate also for Sylvanas, but also a little bit oddly played. I would have really thought after loading in that she would just boost inside the main base and deal some more damage. That would have been such a great move, because the army was so far out of position. Would have just needed to either walk around completely or just to use recall in order to get fast into the main base. Could have dealt so much damage down here to tech buildings. Could have just easily taken out the 3 pylons and empowered a lot of structures as well. But now she just got feedback to her slow medivacs while they were trying to move out. And Koshkii just playing it safe, doing the slow style here, taking a 4th base, maybe just scouting a little bit with the hallucinated Phoenix over here, seeing what her opponent is up to. Just sees that the 3rd base is probably going to scout the 4th base as well, if she can, but it gets taken out before that. so she doesn't really know whether a fourth has been taken or not, might assume that it's not already there, and will probably feel very safe and secure after feedbacking these fully loaded medevacs over here. That was just such a big blow for Sylvanas, who was already behind in that game, so... Not much that really speaks for Sylvanas here. Tries to deal some more damage with the drop over here as well. Can't really attack right into the Protoss forces. And it seems since Koshkii is now finally maxed out, she's on the move. And Sylvanas will just heavily miss these units over here. I mean, she has to somehow hold this push that's coming. If she's able to deal some damage at the same time while her opponent is attacking her, and she manages to hold off that attack, which will be pretty difficult in itself, then she might have the possibility to actually come back into the game. Okay, there's the drop incoming. Or not. Was that an F2 move? No. Is that just recalling all of her units? Okay, more units incoming. Oh, she actually... Okay, no, never mind. Okay, she actually... Woo! She actually made Koshkii recall her complete army here, so buying a lot of time there. So good move there. I was actually obviously a little bit late seeing that. I just saw the medevac moving out. But yeah, actually, Sylvanas did actually everything she wanted to do, just lured her opponent back completely, bought herself a lot of time, is now maxed out as well. She's on 2-2, same as her opponent, 3-2, far away from happening. She also has some more Liberators in the making, has them already set up, but where is the rest of the army? This is a rather small army here. Where is the army supply? I mean, it's 110 to 93, but that doesn't look like 903. Okay, GG's out, all the rest of the army gets killed, and Koshkii just takes the game 2-0. So, welcome back to Apotheosis, spawning to the top left-hand corner. In orange, playing Protoss. It's Koshkii, leading 2-0. And to the bottom right, in blue, playing Terran, it's Sylvanas. And she needs to win 3 in a row in order to get that best of 5, which will be a pretty difficult task to do. Actually quite interesting, since it's loser's pick in this best of 5 after the initial game. Sylvanas deliberately chose Apotheosis as her map, so we'll see what she's actually up to. It's again quite interesting to choose that map, since, as we've seen before, Sylvanas is really scared for drop plays, and there's just so much space to cover in order to prevent it from happening. So that in itself is quite an odd decision. If I'm afraid of my opponent dropping units into my base with the help of a warp prism and I really want to keep it from happening, I don't know if I chose Apotheosis as my map. And then of course the possibility of economic cheese using the gold minerals for better mineral income early on. But maybe that's actually why Sylvanas chose it, and maybe she actually has a build in her mind in order to punish that, expecting Koshkii to do it. We'll see what's going to happen, but it doesn't seem that way. She just plants down the command center on the low ground. Koshkii could actually just nibble away at that SCV here if she wants to, but of course not for all too long, since the Reaper will be out in just a few seconds, so not much she can do. Koshkii comes back, obviously wants some blood, and attacks the SCV, but like I said before, this is not really going to happen. Reaper is out now, is going to kill that that probe before it can actually kill the SCV or harass it any further, and is now going to die. So Reaper now on the way will make it a little bit more difficult to mine from that base over here if controlled correctly. So maybe that's just Sylvanas' plan for now. In the meantime, she goes into her same 1-1-1 build once again. And, well, probably rightfully so. Like I said, I mean, this map is just inviting your opponent to do some sort of drop play. Maybe that's just why she chose it, being pretty confident that she will be able to hold off Koshkii's early warp prism pushes, because she has been so far. Except maybe for the second game, where unfortunately there were too many angles to cover on Galactic Process. And thus maybe she just wants to use the big space that's available for drops for herself and for her own advantage. We'll see. Once again, getting the Reaper here with the Photon Overcharge. So players, if you're Terran and you're facing Koshkii, be careful of that pylon. It's very dangerous and Koshkii might just kill you off using it. So in the meantime, we have an adept over here to protect these probes while they're at work. Nice little adept. I think these probes will appreciate his effort, or her effort actually. Adepts are female characters in the game mostly. So, and then we have the full setup once more. Sylvanas just getting all the good stuff she usually wants to have, getting the Cyclone up, getting the missile turrets up early on, so she will be safe against the typical harassments we know Koshkii for. So, Barracks already producing a few units, actually just delaying the starport a little bit this time around. So this is actually quite interesting. We'll see what Sylvanas wants to do. Last time around she already had the starport before the... or actually in production. The starport was in production before the Cyclone was being produced. So she changed up her... yeah, she changed it up a little bit in order to squeeze out that command center over here, while trying to wall off her natural entrance completely. Okay, in the meantime, Koshkii just has had the chance to mine off that gold base for quite some time unrivaled. Does not take a third base at all, so it seems as if she also wants to commit for a heavy gateway pressure. Just throws down a few more gateways and a forge. No, there's the third base incoming? No. Okay, quite interesting here, just going into a lot of tact. Speed lots into Dark Shrine, but like I said before, Dark Shrine might work out, might not work out. Sylvanas has everything she needs to fend off the DTs quite easily. Still, it's always a matter of execution of both sides. So if, for example, Sylvanas messes up a little bit, or if Koshkii just shows superb micro, she might still be able to deal some damage, to do something with these DTs, especially when splitting up, because you can't really have detection everywhere. So let's see how this is going to work. Dark Templars being morphed in and loaded up. So let's see how everything works out in the end, if Sylvanas will be able to intercept the Warp Prism with either the Widowmine and, like we said before, just barely. It's the dark space. You just barely not see the edge of your base. Finally, Koshkii moves in, but Sylvanas reacts right on time, sees that there's one DT out, but the other DT, of course, can also sneak around because there's not vision everywhere. Okay, kills off one DT after only losing 2 workers. Now the DT is in the natural base as well, killing 4, 5, 6, 7, 8... it's already been quite successful harassment here, and now finally it gets taken down without dealing that much more damage. In the meantime, Koshkii even warped in a few more Dark Templars here, now morphing them into Archons. Might even want to do some sort of Archon drop. Sylvanas has already rearranged the position of her Marines, so will now actually be able to intercept a Warp Prism, although it still takes quite some time for 5 Marines to shoot down that Warp Prism once it flies in, so still kind of a risky move. And it seems as if Koshkii actually just wants to break through the main entrance here, if we have a look at that. She has a lot of Immortals already in position. She also has the tanky Archons, and the Immortals just shoot down buildings so quickly. If Sylvanas just doesn't react in time in order to counter-repair the bunker, it seems as if the bunker just barely gets down before it can get repaired. Mine gets in position, might actually get a good shot. No, it actually gets taken out before it can fire something off. A lot of workers now have to die. Sylvanas had to pull all of the workers, just has a minimum of army units down here due to her heavy tacking and also the kind of greedy build with the early third base, not having enough units in order to rival Koshkii's army, and it seems this is it. Sylvanas being a little bit frustrated, GG's out, and Koshkii takes the game with a 3-0.